Good day everybody, and welcome to Kampala Road, and I hope you all have had a good Christmas and looking forward to the new year. A while ago, about 6 weeks ago, a subscriber of mine, Davestrains, who I think a lot of people know, he's just had a successful series of Davestrains on tours, asked me to do an overview of my power and control. There, not rocket science, but I thought I would, just to show people what it's about, because I've had this for a very long time. And there is my original box. So as you can see, I have the Hornby Elite, and I've had it for maybe 10 years, don't know. My first controller was an H&M Clipper. I then upgraded to 01. And I quite enjoyed that once I'd learned to keep the track clean. And then I sort of left model railways for a while, came back, and it was all DCC, or just starting DCC I should say, but it was very, very prevalent. And of course I turned to Hornby because I knew the Hornby 01 product and could see the similarities, and looked at Elite. And the main reason I bought Elite was because when they launched this, they were going to have an infrared handheld control to work with it. So I bought this about 10 years ago, and with the first Hornby chips, and they had a poor reputation back then, and the Elite was not NRMA compliant. I think the attitude of Hornby, and this is my view, was that they would go it alone, as they did with 01, and they could be better than anybody else. But I soon found that they had to be NRM compliant, and I remember on the forums, I used to belong to some forums way back then, I don't anymore, there was a lot of chatter about NRMA compliance. Anyway, this came with a 4 amp power pack, or it does come with a 4 amp power pack. And it's okay. I mean, I must admit I haven't used ECOS or any Roco, and I realise they're twice the price and probably better. But for what I want, it's okay, and for beginners I think it's okay. The reason I like it is the throttles. It comes with 2 throttles, and it can basically do a lot of programming. What I found confusing in the early days, was that the instruction manual tells you exactly what to do the Hornby way. It doesn't tell you what to do as far as CVs changing and that sort of thing. So that's the original manual, way back then. It's about twice as thick now if you download it off the internet. And that's another point, is it is upgradable. It has had several software upgrades, which you do off your PC and off the Hornby website. And this came V1.1 I think, or 1.3, can't remember. But it's now 1.44, which I did a while back, and a little bit finicky, but I'll tell you where to go if you want. If you haven't done it and you're still on the early software, then I strongly recommend you do it, because it transforms this almost to a completely new controller compared to the old way of programming things on your Elite. So it's well worth doing, well worth staggering through the instructions. So Hornby rather euphemistically suggests that this can be a handheld controller. Maybe you can walk around with it. As I said earlier, I bought this because it was meant to have an infrared handset to go with it, but that was scrapped. And what they did was they made the Elite, the Select, the handheld unit, which is tethered by a cable. And there's some issues there, which I'll come on to in a minute. So you can't really have this as a handheld walkabout unit because you've got too many wires controlling it, linking up to it. You have the power bus, the 3 amp, which goes to track, or your power bus, whichever you prefer. You have your programming track wires, which is there, and that's down here for me. Static grass applicator. You have your Select wire for your handheld Select if you want one. This is your USB connector for upgrading. Mains power supply, 240 volt. This is your accessory wires if you have a power booster, which I do, and I'll come on to that. And this is your 1 amp accessory power bus. So I put that in. It's, as I said earlier, your accessory transformer, that comes with this is 4 amp, 3 amp for your DCC and 1 amp for your accessory power. And that can run lights, signals, accessory controllers, whatever you like, but it's not DCC, it is just 1 amp of power. So that's it. You can see mine's fairly old because it's the descriptions are wearing off here and here. I've had it for about 10 years and relatively reliable. The new 1.44 software really transforms this, makes things much simpler and less complex in the button pressing. One of the complaints about this in the early days was how many buttons you have to press, etc, etc. And also they make a noise. Every time you press it, it makes a hell of a racket, as you can see. So in that respect it's a little bit cheap, but does the job, and it's worked for me for several years, and I have been, 10 years, and I have been thinking about upgrading. I have mentioned that in the past, but the real reason I do like this is the throttles available. You know, you have 3 throttles available without having to switch and toggle between locos, and I really like that. It's just something I'm comfortable with, and I like it. There are a few downsides of the Select. And the main one is the throttle for me. It's not as responsive as on the Elite. On the Elite you can set your speed steps, if you're on 255, and you can spin it like this continuously in either way, and if you've got your speed steps set correctly, then you can really go like this and you get very little response from the locomotive, allowing you to have some pretty fine control on the accelerator. As you can imagine, if you're working intensely with a lot of locomotives and you suddenly switch to Select, you can't do that. The Select only turns like this, like a traditional controller, and that can cause some problems and some accidents. Whilst the upgrade did sort out some issues with the Select talking to the Elite, mainly remembering acceleration and speed settings, I'm having a problem with this, communicating with this. It loses its memory. So I am controlling on this one currently my Lima 117, and I have that program here as 17. And as you can see, while I've been talking, it's lost its memory. Now I don't know why that happens yet. It's reverted to 3, and I will have to probe that back in to regain control of the locomotive, which is currently doing the rounds up here. See it? Off she goes on the wonky branch line. So there are some issues. Now I have thought about changing to a Dynamis or something else, but in the back of my mind I keep thinking about what Hornby must be thinking to doing for the Elite. I mean, this design now is 10 years old, it's ancient. I don't want to go down the road of buying something that's also 4 or 5 years old and Hornby launch something brand new in the next year or two. Not sure if that's reality or not, but at the moment it does the job for me, and basically it can do everything that I need it to do. So the Elite can go up to, I think, 250 odd accessories, and same with the locomotive, I think. The problem, oh no, it can go up to 9,999 locomotive addresses, sorry. The problem with having the Select is the Select can only go up to 59 locomotives. The one I have. I don't know if there's a software upgrade for it, but that's the one. So most of my locomotives on the layout at the moment are programmed between 0 and 59. So as you can see, I'm way down my end of the layout, far end of the layout, and the Select is here with me. And it gives me access to all locomotives. The shortcomings are, if I'm standing here, I cannot change the points, because my points are set at higher numbers than the Elite, the Select can take. Now I did that partly because I thought I was going to get a Dynamis, but I'm having second thoughts. My layout would be perfect for Dynamis. Okay, I don't want to go to the ins and outs of how the Elite works. I think that's fairly boring. But going on with what I use for my power control, my layout is split into 2 power areas, and I'm not sure whether that was really necessary, given that the Elite comes with 3 amps, but I bought this. And the sole reason I bought this was because it was £85, reduced to £12.50, so I bought it. And my layout now has 2 power areas. The station area over here, and that half of the layout, plus the branch line is on one power area, and then the rest of the remaining part of the layout is on the other. And the only thing you have to do is use the plastic fish plates to isolate 2 areas. So the really useful thing about this is it has a reverse loop module built into it. I did buy one because I was planning to have a reverse loop, and that is the Hornby Digital reverse loop. But I didn't realise when I bought this it has built in, so there was no need to use the reverse loop module. This communicates with the Elite via two wires that I showed earlier, that bird's nest underneath, into the back of the Elite. And this is the mains power from the transformer, 3 amps. And as you can see, there's an overload protection as well. Just goes off, usually that goes off when I have a short on points or something like that. So I've got around those days of shorts on points. Even in this temperature, I'm now pretty good. I'm pretty happy with what I got on my points. So yeah, this gives me assurance that I got enough power. On this layout, the most I've ever run is 7 trains. 2 on each loop, major loop. I've run 2 on the branch line, and then I've had a locomotive moving around in the station. And I can tell you, that keeps you on your toes. Control points, I use one of these, or several of these. I think I've got about 5 or 6 of them dotted round. Shop around, because they're quite expensive, and you can get them for around about 30 to 35 quid. Whereas if you don't shop around, you'll find they're around about 40 to 45 pounds. I had a faulty one, which I've elected to keep. They control 4 points. My faulty one only controls 3. So 4 points per accessory controller, the decoder, and this is what they're like in the flesh. So I just have normal either above ground point motors and a couple of underneath the baseboard, and it seems to be okay. You have to, I find, if you're changing points on the same decoder, you've got 2 different points on the same separate decoder. It's always good to count to 10 before you try and change the second one to let the capacitor recharge. Having said that, I have bought some lens accessory decoders. They're about £40 each, and they control 6 points. The advantage of lens is that they will take the power off your accessory bus and take the signal from your DCC bus. Thus, when you change a point, or it does not drain power from your main bus, whereas these do, because they are connected directly to your DCC power bus. So the lens one is better in that way. The other issue of the lens one is you can program it where it's situated. Whereas with this one, I'd have to disconnect it, plug it into the Elite, or bring the Elite over here, power it up, and reprogram it with different numbers. The lens one, I can do that from the Elite. If this was a lens, for example, I could do that immediately now without having to mess around. This is my select walkabout. It's okay. I'm not particularly happy with it, but it's okay for what I need it for, and as the layout becomes more automated, the less and less I'm finding I need to use this to walk around. But I do like the extra throttle, even though it's not as good as the ones on the Elite. There is an upgrade for this. Interestingly, I bought this 6 months ago, and there was an upgrade for the Select 4 years ago. This does not have that upgrade. So whether that means that they're issuing them and you've got to send them back for the upgrade, because I believe you can't do it at home, or the stock is so old they've been hanging around for years, I don't know. So it's not really an ad for Hornby, but it's the system I've got, and it's a system that works for me at the moment, and it's okay. As I said before, I like 1, 2, 3 handy where I'm sitting. I can swap between 3 locomotives immediately without having to toddle. I do again recommend do the upgrade if you haven't, and Susanna Jochum has done a brilliant video about 15 minutes long on YouTube, on her channel, on how to do that, because I had problems when I tried to do it, and as she says, just follow the instructions by the letter. But have a look at her video on what she did, and it's very, very useful. So having 2 power sources, it means I have 2 power buses underneath. One from the Elite and one from the booster. But those 2 wires running between the 2 units basically controls all that as the 2 systems talk to each other, and there's no real confusion. And I think that's about it. So I hope that was helpful, Dave, and to anybody else. It's not an ad for Hornby, it's just what I use, and I am thinking of changing. Not quite sure when, because of the finances involved, and what I've got is actually working. And secondly, as I said earlier, in the back of my mind, surely Hornby must be thinking of modernising the Elite to something better. And I don't want to go down the road and buy Dynamics or something, which I've read what the Dynamics Ultimate can do, and it's exactly the same as the Elite, but probably slightly more adaptable in that you can change your points on the handsets, etc, etc. Anyway, hope you find that useful, and thank you very much for watching and suffering my video, and from Africa, cheers for now.